All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're taking a closer look at Yankwitt Law Firm, PLLC. They're based in Florida, and you guys have sent us a ton of info about them. Their website, client reviews, even some blog posts.
Yeah, looks like a pretty good mix of sources.
So our mission, if you will, is to figure out what makes this firm tick. What are their strengths? What should potential clients know? That sort of thing.
I think that's a great approach. It's always fascinating to peek behind the curtain of a business like a law firm. Reputation is everything in this field.
Exactly. So let's dive right in. First off, they describe themselves as a full-service firm. They handle everything from bankruptcy to wills and trusts.
Wow, that's quite a range.
And here's the kicker. The firm's founder, Eric Yankwitt, is also a CPA. I mean, how often do you see that?
Not very often. That's an interesting twist. Makes you wonder how that plays into their approach.
Right. So what does that actually mean for a potential client? Does it give them an edge?
Well, think about it. Let's say you're going through a divorce and things are getting messy. Dividing assets, maybe there's a business involved, who knows?
Yeah, those can get pretty complicated.
Exactly. And that's where having a lawyer who also understands the intricacies of accounting could be a game changer.
Oh, I see what you're saying. They could analyze financial statements, maybe even uncover hidden assets, stuff a regular lawyer might miss.
Exactly. They could potentially negotiate a much fairer settlement for you. So in that sense, it's a huge advantage.
So in a way, that full-service approach, combined with Eric's accounting background, could offer a more comprehensive solution, especially when legal and financial issues overlap.
I think that's a fair assessment. But of course, there's always a flip side.
Right, there's always a trade-off.
Yeah, you have to wonder if they sacrifice specialized knowledge for that broad reach. I mean, can they truly be experts in everything?
That's the question, isn't it? So would you say that sometimes a more specialized firm might be a better choice? One that focuses on a specific area of law?
Absolutely. Let's say you're dealing with something like intellectual property law. Patents, trademarks, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's pretty specialized.
Exactly. In that case, a boutique firm that eats, sleeps, and breathes intellectual property law might be a better fit. They'll have that deep knowledge and experience in that very specific niche.
So it really comes down to the individual's needs and the complexity of their legal issue.
Exactly. It's about finding the right tool for the job, so to speak.
Makes sense. Okay, now let's talk about something else that stood out to me. Eric Yankwitt's approach to client communication. The guy lists his personal cell phone number on the website, and he encourages clients to hand-deliver information.
Wow, that's pretty old school. You don't see that very often these days.
Right. It seems like he's going for that personal touch, that direct connection with his clients.
It definitely suggests a certain level of accessibility and a commitment to client service.
But here's the thing. They also operate by appointment only. So is it really that accessible if you can't just walk in and have a chat?
Yeah, that's an interesting contrast. It's almost like they're trying to control the flow of interaction, which could be seen as a bit restrictive.
I'm picturing those popular restaurants that don't take reservations. You might get lucky, but chances are you'll be waiting in line for a while.
Exactly. And when you're dealing with a legal issue, time is often of the essence, so that by appointment only policy might not sit well with everyone.
Yeah, some people might need more immediate assistance or prefer a more spontaneous approach.
I think it really comes down to your personality and how you like to communicate. If you're someone who plans ahead and likes structure, then this system might work for you. But if you prefer flexibility and immediate access, it could be a bit frustrating.
So it's something to consider. It's about finding a firm that matches your style and needs.
Exactly. Now, speaking of clients, let's dive into these testimonials. We have a stack of them here, and some are incredibly positive.
Some even mention getting calls back on weekends, like Sunday evenings.
Wow, that's dedication. It definitely shows a commitment that goes beyond the typical 9 to 5.
A lot of clients also highlight Eric's problem-solving abilities. One even called him a legal MacGyver. Pretty funny, right?
That's a great one. It speaks to a certain level of creativity and resourcefulness, which I imagine could be pretty valuable in complex cases.
It seems like a lot of people feel like their problems are really being heard and addressed. That must make a huge difference when you're going through something stressful.
Absolutely. That sense of being understood and supported can be incredibly valuable during a tough time.
But, okay, let's be real for a second. We have to acknowledge that testimonials can be a bit, well, people tend to focus on the positive. It's not always the whole story.
You're absolutely right. We need to view these testimonials with a critical eye. It's like reading online reviews, right? You take the 5-star raves with a grain of salt.
Exactly. You look at patterns, recurring themes, and that sort of thing.
Right. And in this case, even though we're taking the testimonials with a grain of salt, the consistent praise for Eric's responsiveness and his ability to solve problems, it does seem to align with his overall approach.
Yeah, that consistency does seem to be a key factor here. It suggests that these aren't just isolated incidents.
Exactly. It seems like there's a deliberate effort to provide that kind of service.
All right, so we've talked about the full-service model, Eric's hands-on style, and what clients have to say. but there's still more to explore, right?
Oh, definitely. We've only just scratched the surface. There are a few more layers we need to peel back to really understand what Yankwitt Law Firm is all about.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about how Yankwitt Law Firm interacts with its clients, but I'm really interested in this idea of going beyond just handling cases.
Yeah, they're definitely proactive.
It seems like they make a real effort to educate and engage their clients. You mentioned those free seminars and newsletters, right?
Exactly. They seem to get that knowledge is power, especially in legal and financial matters. I mean, think about it. You just inherited a bunch of money, and suddenly you're dealing with estate taxes and asset protection. It can get pretty overwhelming.
Absolutely. Most people don't deal with that stuff every day.
Right, so what if Yankwitt Law Firm offered a seminar totally free that explained it all in plain English?
That would be amazing, like a crash course in managing your inheritance.
Exactly. They could break down those complex legal terms, make it easy to understand. Suddenly, you feel more confident, empowered to make smart decisions.
And they offer seminars on a bunch of topics, right?
Yeah, they cover a pretty wide range. It's like they're anticipating their clients' needs, giving them the tools to navigate tricky situations.
And it doesn't even matter if you end up hiring them, right? The information is valuable regardless.
I think so, yeah. It goes beyond just promoting their services. It's about providing genuine value, helping people make informed choices.
Now, the tax newsletter, that seems especially smart, given Eric's background as a CPA. Do you think they offer specific tax strategies in there, help clients minimize their liability?
I'd say that's a pretty safe bet. It's hard to say for sure without seeing the content, but it's definitely a unique offering.
It's like having a financial advisor and a lawyer all in one.
That's a great way to put it. And think about the bigger picture. By offering this kind of ongoing advice, they're building trust, establishing themselves as a go-to resource for their clients.
So it's a win-win. Clients get valuable information, and Yankwitt Law Firm strengthens those relationships, potentially leading to more business down the road.
Makes sense. It's a smart strategy. Okay, we've talked about the good stuff, their services, their communication, the way they educate clients, but now we need to address something that raised a few eyebrows for me.
Oh, yeah. Those blog posts. I was wondering when we'd get to those.
They all seem to have the same placeholder text, which, let's be honest, doesn't look great for a firm that prides itself on attention to detail.
Yeah, it's a bit of a head scratcher. I mean, in this day and age, your website is your first impression. And if you have generic placeholder content,
It sends a mixed message, right? It makes you wonder if they're really as meticulous as they claim to be.
it's like going to a five-star restaurant and finding dust on the chandeliers. It just makes you question the overall level of care.
Exactly. And it could make potential clients think twice before reaching out.
Now, to be fair, it could just be an oversight, maybe a technical glitch or something.
That's true. It could be a simple explanation, but it's definitely something you'd want to address if you were considering working with them.
It makes you think, if they're not careful about their own website, will they be as thorough with your legal matters?
That's a valid point. It highlights the importance of looking beyond the surface, doing your due diligence. Don't just rely on one source of information.
So you're saying don't just take their word for it, do some digging, see what else you can find.
Exactly. Look at their website, read reviews from multiple sources, check their standing with the Bar Association, maybe even try to talk to someone who's worked with them.
So if you're really serious about hiring them, a little detective work is in order.
Absolutely. You want to make sure they're the right fit for you.
All right, so we've talked about Yankwitt Law Firm's approach, their strengths, and even some potential weaknesses. What's next? How do we help our listener put all this together and make an informed decision?
Well, I think it's time we flip the script a bit. Let's talk about you, the listener, and what you need from a law firm.
So we've really directed Yankwitt Law Firm. We've looked at their full-service approach, Eric's hands-on style, those glowing client reviews, and even their efforts to keep clients informed with seminars and newsletters. But then there's that whole blog post thing. Not exactly a glowing endorsement of their attention to detail. It's been a fascinating deep dive, that's for sure.
It really has. A real mixed bag, you could say.
Yeah, I think mixed bag's a pretty good way to put it. So how do we help our listener make sense of all this? What should they take away from all this information?
I think the most important thing is to think about what you as a potential client actually need. What are your priorities when choosing a lawyer?
Right, what are your non-negotiables? Because there's no one-size-fits-all answer here. What works for one person might not work for another.
Exactly. Some people might prioritize a firm with a proven track record in a specific area of law. They might not care as much about a fancy website or hand-delivered documents.
While others might prioritize that personal touch, that feeling of being heard and understood.
Right. And maybe for them, having that direct line to Eric Yankwitt is a huge plus.
So it's about finding the right fit. Finding a firm that aligns with your values and expectations.
Absolutely. Don't get too caught up in the bells and whistles. Focus on the things that matter most to you.
So for our listeners who've been taking notes on Yankwitt Law Firm, what's the key takeaway here? What should they do next?
Well, I would say don't just take our word for it. Don't make a decision based on any one piece of information.
Yeah, do your own research. Dig a little deeper.
Exactly. Reach out to the firm, ask them about those blog posts, maybe inquire about their upcoming seminars.
And see how you feel about their responses. Trust your gut instinct.
Because choosing a lawyer is a big decision. It's about finding someone you trust, someone you feel comfortable with, someone who you believe will be the best advocate for your situation.
I think that's a great place to wrap things up.
Yes, definitely. It's been a pleasure exploring this with you.
Likewise. And to our listeners, we hope this deep dive into Yankwitt Law Firm has provided some valuable insights into what to look for when choosing legal representation.
Remember, knowledge is power. The more informed you are, the better decisions you'll make.
And on that note, until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.